It's easy to forget, but the presidential primaries are still happening. I mean, we know that Trump is gonna be the nominee for the Republicans, Biden's gonna be the nominee for the Democrats, but technically you still have to have the process, and they are. And you might think, what's the point of paying attention to that? Well, let me tell you what the point is, because sometimes there's still some fascinating stuff coming out of these primaries. Fascinating for Donald Trump, fascinating for his chances of winning the presidential race, because he won the Pennsylvania Republican primary last night. That's the good news for him. He won by a lot in that primary. That's the second bit of good news. He got 83.4% of the vote. But do you know what 83.4% of the vote isn't? It isn't 100% of the vote. And that means nearly 160,000 Republicans saw Nikki Haley drop out of the race over a month ago. A month ago it happened. And they thought, you know what? Screw that guy. I'm still gonna go vote in this primary just so I can stick my thumb in his eye because I don't want him to be our guy.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the Damage Report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you.
Now, not every one of those people necessarily will not vote for Donald Trump come November. Some of them perhaps will. But if you're, I don't want to say the word petty because I get what you're doing and I approve of what you're doing, but it's needless. If you're willing to do that, I think it's safe to say that a good number of those voters will not turn out for Donald Trump. And they could. They're Republicans. They're tapped into politics. They're interested in what's going on. They're just not interested in Donald Trump. And I've been comparing a lot of numbers and telling you what numbers are not. Do you know what 156,000 votes are? Nearly twice as many votes as Biden won Pennsylvania by in 2020. So Donald Trump has turned off about twice as many highly motivated Republicans in that state as what Biden won by. And so we don't know for sure if this is what could determine the Pennsylvania race, assuming we get to it. But it is certainly not impossible that it could swing the race. And that I think is fascinating. It makes me think, Sharon, by the way, that when Nikki Haley dropped out or whatever, Trump was famously quoted as saying that I don't want him to come back to me. I don't need their votes. Well, the first half of that sentence might be true, but you might come to regret the second half, Donald Trump. What do you think?
I think he'll absolutely regret it. And she barely got the words out when she urged him to, open the door to the tent again. Tents don't have doors, but you know what I mean? She said, welcome these people back. We're not your enemies. We want to work for the common good, if you are of that persuasion. We want people to come back together. And he basically did exactly what you said and said, get out of here and you're done and you will never be back here again. And so now he's gonna have to live by that or die by that. Again, no one wishes him ill will, but speaking of the election and the outcome, and every vote matters. Every vote matters.
Yeah, well, he sometimes seems to understand that and sometimes seems to feel differently because he's been talking a lot about the election, about the role of the RNC in the election, and whether he thinks people voting is important. Again, like so many things, really depends on the day. So he told Truth Social investors and influencers recently, if they didn't cheat, I would stand here and say this election is over. But we've got great people, Michael and Laura, the two co-chairs of the RNC. And we've got great people that are watching. I said, don't get me votes. I don't need any votes. We got all the votes we need. The election is in literally months. What do you mean you have all the votes you need? Just make sure on election day, there's no cheating. So again, we got all the votes we need. I don't need any votes. I don't know exactly what that means. That could mean a few different things. It could mean the RNC shouldn't put too much resources into the race. Like you literally had your family take it over and now you're saying you don't want them to invest in the race for you? Or maybe he means like, we don't want you to encourage early voting or mail-in voting because I'm trying to demonize that, so I don't need those votes. It could be that. I'm honestly not sure. He just said recently, this was 5 days ago on Truth Social, absentee voting, early voting, and election day voting are all good options. Republicans must make a plan, register, and vote. But last year he told his supporters, don't worry about voting on election day. Jesus, okay. He said recently, so we have to be careful. You gotta get out there and you gotta watch those voters. You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. The voting, we got plenty of votes. You gotta watch. So he's telling the American electorate, who has been notably less invested in elections than like European countries for literally decades. And it's hard as hell to get people out to vote. Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent to try to get them to vote. I want you to go out, but I don't want you to vote. I want you to just watch everyone else who's voting. And so if every Republican takes this advice, on election day, we will have 70 million Republicans watch 78 million Democrats re-elect Joe Biden, I guess. I don't know what you make of all this, Sharon. If you are a Maga person, are you supposed to go? What are you supposed to do? I don't know.
Again, he's doing it again. Madman rambling. And I think if you are still part of this MAGA revolution, that I can't answer that question. Neither can they. They're going to make it up as they go. Okay, just like the whole QAnon thing. We go in this direction. When that doesn't happen and things don't end over here, well, then we're just going to pivot. We're going to pivot. So we'll make it up when the time comes, is the answer that you'll be given. We'll just wait and see. You just wait and see. That's another thing that they like to say. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
By the way, before we close out that conversation, Summerlee, progressive, won her primary. It was not particularly close. We had wondered sort of leading into it if this is gonna be one of the many cases in which big lobbies, either AIPAC or like crypto lobbies or whatever, would get involved and try to elect a centrist. In this case, not so much. So, and they had spent millions against her back in 2022, so they decided not to do this in this particular case. I don't know, maybe they just want to put their resources into other races or whatever, but hey, that's good news, we'll take it. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.